Welcome everybody to Zero Camp's special Q&A session before our regular game tonight. I'm here to help talk to you about Gencon 2023 and hopefully answer any questions you might have about Privateer Press as far as Gencon stuff goes. I am super excited tonight just to talk about all this stuff, but before we get started, I do want to thank a few folks. One, I do want to thank Enchanted Grounds here in Littleton, Colorado. As always, they're giving us a place to play as well as to stream, and it's super awesome. We are super thankful for that. We normally are playing games down here about 5 o'clock or so Mountain Time. If you ever find yourself in Southwest Denver, please feel free to come on out and play. But also, I would like to go ahead and also thank Robin's Nerd Supplies for sponsoring our Gencon 2023 trip. This is kind of our first sponsorship. It's our first deal there. I've worked with Robin's Nerd Supplies quite a bit in the past. They're a personal friend of mine, actually. Super happy to talk about the dice that they've got. So if you ever find yourself needing a new set of tabletop RPG dice, their set of polyhedras, or even just a set of D6s for War Machine or any other war game, please feel free to look them up. Take a look at their selection. They've got some absolutely gorgeous dice. Everything from standard acrylics to metal to some really fancy stuff. Some resin-filled hollow dice, actually. They're a great time. You can order sets of D6s, and we have that 10% off discount code at the bottom of the screen here for you, so you can get 10% off your order.
And if you just want to take your Monopoly game to the next level, Robin's Nerd Supply.
That's right. The best looking Monopoly game ever. Or the coolest not Yahtzee. Could you imagine? So excellent. We'll keep that up for a while. Please feel free to, again, to use that discount code that you're seeing down there. It's just 0_camp. But now we'll go ahead and start taking it away. So if you have any questions and you are watching in chat, please feel free to type them into the chat. I'm happy to answer anything you got there. Otherwise, I know I've got some local folks here in the store who are looking to ask some questions as well. We do also have, I think I'm hoping I'm pointing the right way, running this way. Over here, we've got a video running that is just some footage from Gen Con and our unboxing videos, as well as the narrative event they'll just kind of play throughout everything. So, I'm going to look over at Greg, who is, it's mirrored, or, there we go. How is talking with Privateer Press? Thanks for the question, Razor Katu. I'm just going to look over at Greg because I know exactly who that is. It was really good. I had fantastic interactions with Privateer Press while I was there. They were busy most of the time, to be honest, which is a fantastic sign. It's a good sign that they are busy. It's a sign that the game is doing all right. It's in a good place. When I asked them about their presence there, they were saying that for their attendance at the con, they were doing well, which is also great to hear. The individual interactions were great, too. I really want to give a big shout out to Lauren over at Privateer Press. She was super awesome. She ran a lot of the narrative events. I interacted with her the most. Super cool. Did I get any spoilers? They did not give me any spoilers, unfortunately. We did chat briefly about individual units and kind of the time frame that they may be coming out. I did get the answer that they were hoping that in the next 30 to 60 days after a starter army is released, that those individual units and models will be available for retail sale. But at this point, they're still working on trying to get those out. I know they've advertised it, but currently it's the Arcanists and Shock Trooper Gunners for Winter Corps are available on an individual basis. So, and I think we've got folks that are, and I'm going to do a bunch of fun hand signals.
Questions?
Yeah. Mic yourself up, ask away. And again, chat, please feel free to ask questions as well. Make sure to unmute them too.
Am I unmuted? So I'd like to get your perception of the narrative event. Like how many people showed up? What was it like playing in it? Did you have a lot of fun?
Excellent. So the narrative event was a lot of fun. It did run over the course of 3 days. So day one was kind of individual and then a team game for Summer Plunder. I did not participate in that one, but I did walk past it. Some of that video does show up actually inside of that B-reel, which if I recall is over here. I'm like trying to point to the wrong spot. It was a great time. There were, I believe, when I walked past, 10 people playing in the Summer Plunder event, day one. Day two, there were a dozen folks at the end of the day, and then for the third day, the conclusion of Summer Plunder, there were about another dozen people there as well. it was a great time. The Summer Plunder event was fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of playing in it. It is an narrative event. There were some goofy scenarios, but just the individuals I got to meet, the armies I got to play against, my interactions with Privateer were just fantastic. Nothing but great things to say about the narrative event there at Gen Con. Would gladly do it again, and hopefully next year get a chance to. So we'll see.
Did they have any of the cool? Did they have any?
That works.
Did they have any of the cool? What kind of compressor do you use?
Sorry, now you're.
I got the one that
Did they have any of the cool terrain that they've had in previous conventions?
Yes. So Privateer brought out a bunch of terrain for the narrative events. I'm looking over at the B-roll footage, kind of seeing where we are now. Actually, after this, there will be a little bit of footage of me walk around the con and then the narrative event itself. So keep your eye up over here. There's quite a bit of footage of that terrain, but there's some gorgeous buildings that they placed. Some statues on the buildings that are just models they had, which were also awesome. There was, in one event, a bunker that was probably 2 feet across. It was super cool. There were special rules that we did not end up using. People died too quickly to effectively utilize it. But a lot of really cool terrain, a lot of bunkers, like the bunker kits, as well as guard towers, a lot of the defenses. And then they actually also ran with some special Summer of Plunder narrative objectives. There was a 20, 30, 40, and 50 mil objective, if I am recalling correctly, all printed just specifically for the event. They're all pirate themed. They were super cool to play with as well. So I'm actually watching that B-roll footage. We're coming up here in just a second on it. So you should be seeing that shortly.
And then the last big one, which was, how did it feel to roll 7 on 4 dice to damage?
So we talked about this in our local meta. So I rolled a dice off 7 4-dice damage roll and managed to get no damage, which was awesome. My luck is a little infamous here in the local meta, but it was great to spread the word of War Machine and show folks that it's not just my big mouth talking, it is my dice that sometimes do the awful talking for me. So I'm seeing in chat, what was my favorite piece? My favorite piece of what?
The terrain you're talking about.
Oh, my favorite piece of terrain we're talking about. There was a 3 foot tall building. I suddenly can't remember. Actually, yeah, I think it's just showing up here. It's like a Signar efficient building. It's super cool. It's got a few statues on it. Yep, actually, as I started talking about it, it shows up on the video. Love that building. It was super neat to see. It was rough to play around, but it was so thematic to see it on the table and to have to fight through the city streets. Also, you said, do I have any of those objectives to show off? I unfortunately do not have any of those objectives here with me today. I did get pictures up on our Facebook if anyone wants to take a look there. They are up there. You are welcome to take a look at them there. I will try to get them up in games here in the future on stream so we can take a quick look at them. On a different note, I'm going to show off our other host, Greg's Invictus here. So he was awesome enough to paint Invictus for us. And I'm hoping that this shows up pretty well on camera. So yeah, he's had him for 1 week. It's super cool to see. I'm absolutely loving that paint job. It's going to be a good time to see him on stream.
My Dusk is not painted, but yeah, Invictus totally is.
Oh, I guess to kind of plug that, we will have Greg's Dusk on stream later tonight. So for those of you watching YouTube later, check out that video battle report for our 8/16 stream.
So I guess one of my questions that I had was just about the narrative as well, because we're starting in the Resurrection League here, doing some other narrative stuff locally. So as you were playing in that, like, what were your favorite moments of the narrative league?
So my favorite moments from the narrative game are just some of the silly, fun things we could do. The narrative games are designed to kind of help breed excitement about the game and about playing in general. So you have some rules that are built to that effect. One of these scenarios I very vividly recall is when we had attackers and defenders. The attackers had to destroy buildings, guard towers, and bunkers, and the defenders, the team I was on, had to defend those buildings, and that was the win condition. We had to control so many buildings as defenders, or the attackers had to destroy so many buildings. It was a lot of fun. Just having that specific, and not necessarily competitive objective to go after, just something to help breed some friendly competition between players. Getting to do some of the silly stuff, watching a. For those of us that were there at the event, they will know what I'm talking about when I say I watched a mannequin from a Sentry Stone walk over, deal 1 point of damage to a guard tower to destroy the final building that the attackers needed to win the scenario, and it was hilarious to watch. Just a little lowly mannequin, an unboosted mannequin attack, do the job.
As a Circle player, I appreciate that.
So again, chat, if you've got any questions for me about Gencon or Privateer Press's presence there, again, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer anything you've got. I'm also looking around the room at the other players in our meta if they've got any questions. They're making funny poses at me. It's a good time.
So do you think you'd go back next year possibly?
I would love to go back next year. Gencon itself is a very affordable con. It was a lot of fun to visit too. A lot of stuff to see. Spread over 4 days. Beyond Privateer Press's presence, which is primarily what we were there for, there was a lot of really cool stuff to see. A lot of really neat stuff to do. If anyone can ever go, I would highly suggest it. Just to be immersed in gaming for 4 days, it's super awesome. It is too early to tell if Gen Con 2024 will be something that either myself personally or Zero Camp as a stream can do. But if given the opportunity, I would absolutely love to go back.
And would you be willing to do another con this year?
Oh, I feel like that is a loaded question. So this is Greg asking me. I would love to do another con this year. We are going to be going to Warfare Weekend to record their games for the Last Chance qualifier as well as for the Iron Gauntlet, which is super exciting. So a very different objective, much more our forte per se, but looking forward to that one. But if there are other cons you're talking about, Greg, the vagueness is something that I guess I'll leave up to you and anyone at home who's watching. Oh. It would be a great time. I would absolutely love to do it if given the opportunity. So, kind of while we're waiting for folks to ask questions, I will try to talk about the narrative event a little bit. So the Summer of Plunder event, for those of you that are not familiar, is the narrative event that Privateer Press ran at Gen Con. The idea with the narrative event, while it is to help get players to play games at Gen Con, to interact with the community and so on, it was also helping to drive the story. So the players were divided up into 2 teams, depending on the day. There were attackers and defenders, there were invaders and plunderers, and then there were attackers and defenders later again. But the outcome of those games helps to drive some of the narrative that we might see coming up here for a while now within the fiction. So it'll be interesting to see what that means for us as players and I guess consumers of the narrative for War Machine. I can tell you that the games were, except for day 1 where I wasn't participating, the games were very close between the 2 teams. Victories were very narrow. There were a lot of draws. And the victories themselves, when they were completed, were usually only by 1 point. Except for, again, the first day. The first day there was a crushing victory. I can't recall which side, unfortunately, but it was absolutely bonkers, according to what Lauren and the rest of Privateer Press staff that was there was telling us. So it looks like, if I can read it here, how much single package product did Privateer Press have? The stuff that is in the Army box. So I believe I may have mentioned this briefly, but to cover it again, Privateer Press, as far as individual solos and units that are in the Army boxes, right now, it was just the Winter Corps Arcanists and Shock Trooper Gunners. Those were the only 2 selection available as individual purchases that are normally in the Army box. However, they had quite a bit of it there. So I don't think they will be running out of stock on those anytime soon. They are slowly working their way through that, and I'm looking forward to seeing some more of that selection from those starter boxes here in the next coming months. I'm trying to think what else I can talk about. I'm already... I apologize, Chad. I thought I was better prepared for this.
No, and the other thing, I think if you want, there are the dust models. You did the unboxing, but the assembled base dust, if you want to show anyone.
I will wait for you to play with those and tell folks to also watch that stream, again, our 8/16 stream, to see some of those a little bit more. They look awesome assembled. Even better than they looked with the unboxing, which, as it turns out, is exactly what's going on over here right now, is some cuts from our unboxing video, which if you have not already seen, our unboxing videos are up on YouTube. You can check those out as well. They're shorter videos. They're only 5 to, I think, 13, 14 minutes long. So very easy to watch. I guess one other thing I'll talk about is I know I've got some of the footage up in here as well, scattered throughout, but pictures of the studio painted models from Privateer Press that was on display at their booth. They are gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Pictures do not do those models justice. They're absolutely phenomenal to look at, and good gosh, it's nice to see that 3D printing hasn't diminished the quality of the models they're putting out. I didn't think that they were, but to see them in person and get that personal affirmation that the 3D printing has done nothing to slow down the quality, that with just a little bit of cleanup, those models are just as good as traditional casting methods, is just fantastic.
Now, that's something I was personally pleasantly surprised with as I was building and painting Invictus, because this is the first model I've actually painted unassembled, because there's so much going on under those arms and stuff that I didn't want to miss something as I was painting that.
Yes.
So it's the first time I've done that. But I just, the one thing I kept running into is there'd be a tiny sprue somewhere, like under a chain or something like that. Like, I totally missed that. I think had I just taken some more time to clean it before I actually started painting everything else, it would have been totally fine. And I found it all in the painting stage, so it was easy just to grab and pull them right off, and it was so easy to do. So I was super happy with that. And when I looked at it before priming, I could see a little bit of mold line or print lines and things, but all of those went away with prime, and it turned out gorgeous. I was super happy with it.
It's important to note that when we're talking about priming these models, we're talking about using base acrylic primer. We're not using the heavier sandable stuff. The lines from the printing disappear pretty quickly under primer. To Greg's point, they've been visible. I think they're visible a little in some of those unboxing videos as well. But they do go together nicely. The cleanup usually involves picking out small bits of supports here and there on the models, the remains of some supports and pieces that are very close together in some cases. But for the most part, these models are ready to go almost right out of the bag. You have to stick them on a base and you could play with them.
Oh yeah, and with the jacks from the Dusk, this is the first Mark IV stuff that I have personally built. And magnetizing those were super easy to do. I had to redo my magnetization style a little bit, because with the Dusk ones, the cavity to hold them are really deep, which is really good, and it makes a super solid connection. But because they're so deep, the magnets actually pull on each other too, which help keep them. Yeah, so they actually help keep them in the socket, which is super awesome. But normally I do all my polarities coming away from the model, and I had to swap that. Now I have like a left side polarity and a right side polarity, because their cavities are so deep and they actually hold each other in, which is actually very nice, and it turned out really well. But
the fact that they were even designed with magnetization in mind is fantastic. Coming from a background of playing other miniatures war games, where especially I won't name the one that talks about 40,000 anything, but there are cases where you do want to magnetize those models in those games, and it is difficult, if not nearly impossible. And while Privateer Press in the past, the Jack kits or even some of the Warbeast kits, say in Mark III specifically, were perfectly able to magnetize the kits. This explicit design with magnetization is just, it's so nice.
It's been really helpful, and I think they really learned from Warcaster, because I really enjoy Warcaster myself as well, as another PP game. But their first couple armies, they were designed, they encourage you to magnetize, but it wasn't specifically built that way. And then their next couple armies that they started rolling out had that design built in, so they had that practice built in before Mark IV even started. So I think they learned from that, and I've been super, super happy with all of my Dust stuff so far. And it looks great. The magnetization was super easy to get in. Yeah, I was happy with all of it, and it went together so fast and so nice.
Yeah, I guess it's also a good time to mention Privateer Press has announced a street date for both the Southern Creole Brine Blood Marauders Army Starter Box, as well as the Dusk House Kalis. Kalis? I believe I'm pronouncing it wrong. But that are a starter box as well. Both of those boxes now have a street date of August 25th. So at the time of our video here, 9 days away. So not next Wednesday, but the Friday afterwards, that street date drops, and those armies will be available to the public. And looking forward to seeing those as well. I've been playing Winter Core. The magnetization on those jacks is great, but those Dust models sold me, and I can't wait to build those also and to get magnetizing those Dust jacks.
In which case, like, how big games came out of that process? Chrono Trigger and Xenogears came out of that.
Well, awesome, Guinevere. Thank you for messaging us here. It is absolutely great to have the magnets designed for them. They're also using magnets that are common enough size that they're easy to get hold of. Privateer Press does sell the magnets individually, but you may have luck purchasing your magnets elsewhere. But let's see here. Big ring. Oh my goodness, I'm struggling to come up with stuff.
I thought you had something on the edge.
I thought I had something too. I guess it's important to note, there was an Iron Arena that went on at Gencon. I did not participate in it. There were panels and other things I was visiting as well. But that is a pretty common feature of Privateer Press at cons and conventions, is kind of a free play where they reward you for other stuff. Lock and load, although we don't have lock and load anymore at this time. There's definitely potential for in the future just more Iron Arena events at, again, conventions where Privateer Press has presence. They gave out prizes, I guess, which is actually something else we can talk about with the narrative events. With the narrative events, one thing that was really neat for me as a player is that my participation was awarded with convention-specific prizes. So I got, and I believe I posted pictures up on our Facebook about it, is the Brine Blood Marauders themed defense set. It's a really neat defense set, and then again the Summer of Plunder objectives, which I was also able to take home a set of. So it was really neat just to have those things with me as kind of a reward for just participating and helping to move the narrative forward and narrative along here. So I would like to go ahead and just, we're kind of running out of time, but thanks Robin Nerd Supplies again for everything, for helping to sponsor our trip out to Gen Con. It was a huge help for us getting out there just to be able to talk to and interact with Privateer Press, to see all the stuff. So please, next time you're thinking about a set of dice, be it for D&D or other tabletop RPGs, Privateer Press's games, be it War Machine, Warcaster, or really anything you need dice for, please check them out, consider them. Their dice selection is fantastic, and again, please feel free to use the discount code down here. It is good pretty much in perpetuity for 10% off your order. And you're helping out a small business too. So we want to thank them. We do also want to thank Enchanted Grounds here in Littleton, Colorado, as always, for giving us a place to play as well as to stream our games and our talking and our chatting and everything else going on. But at this point, I will start to give way to the players so we can get on to the game this evening. So I will let Greg and Matt play. So we're going to go ahead and end the stream, take a quick break, and then get those players up and running. Greg, anything else you want to add before we call it right here?
No, that's it. So like I said, I'll move it over. I'm just going to let this keep going. I'll put it on the countdown screen, cue that music, and we'll get rocking and rolling.
All right. Well, thank you very much for everyone that was watching and asked questions here today. appreciate you all so much, and we will see you all here again in just a few minutes.